You've got the multi-billion-dollar industry of baseball in a total kerfluffle. It's so good. Oh, my God, is it great? I love it. So if you didn't see it over the weekend, you got the billionaires on one side, the millionaires on the other. The millionaires starting this, the Major League Baseball Players Association. If you hadn't followed along, maybe you did not follow along here, the Players Association, out of thin air, sent out a message over the weekend amid the rash of pitchers who cannot stay on the mound. They're so fragile. They're made out of paper mache, these pitchers in baseball. My God. Why would you pay any of them? Anyway, that's a different conversation. So with all these significant injuries, the first week and a few days of the baseball season, arm injury here, there, and everywhere, all over the place, the Major League Baseball Players Association, the MLBPA as they're called, released a prepared statement claiming the use of the pitch clock in 2023 and then altered this season is to blame. You blame the clock. Tick-tock. Blame the clock. A statement from Tony Clark, former big league player, now he's a union boss. He said, despite unanimous player opposition and significant concerns regarding the health and safety, the commissioner's office reduced the length of the pitch clock last December, just one season removed from imposing the most significant rule change in decades. Clark moaned and complained. Quote continues, he says, since then, our concerns about the health impacts of reduced recovery time have only intensified. Tony Clark, the union boss, said the league's unwillingness thus far to acknowledge or study the effects of these profound changes is an unprecedented threat to our game and its most valuable asset, the players. Very sad. Man, that's a sad story, isn't it? Man, guys have to pitch a little quicker. Their arms are going to fall off, according to Tony Clark. Well, this is where it gets good. So he sent that out over the weekend, and then the Major League Baseball operation responded, and they said, turn on the missiles. And here we go. So this is a statement from corporate baseball. They said this statement regarding the one from Tony Clark, this statement ignores the empirical evidence and much more significant long-term trend over multiple decades of velocity and spin increases that are highly correlated with arm injuries. The statement went for Major League Baseball. They then pointed to a Johns Hopkins study and some other studies here that had been done on the subject. So let us discuss the question. Whose side are you on in Major League Baseball's ratcheting up the war of words with the union? Back and forth. All right, so I've got Julius Caesar, martial law, and Liberty Bell. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make spaghetti and meatballs is what we're going to make. So, this is unfortunate, but I am on the side of Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball, although in a roundabout way, they are to blame, just not because of the clock. I'll get to that in a second. All right, so the way I look is I wish I could have been a fly in the room when that memo came out from the union there. And I would rather side with the players on this than corporate baseball. You know how I feel about Rob Manfred. I've been complaining about him for many, many years. But on this one, I just can't side with the clock being the boogeyman. I don't buy that. Elbow injuries have been trending up, and away for many, many years. The pitch clock was just implemented in 2023. So that ain't it. All right, that ain't it. What do I know? I just do an overnight show, but my God. And Tony Clark, though, unprovoked. The fact that he's completely unprovoked and an act of aggression. Now, I do appreciate what I believe is misguided candor, a frank Tony Clark. The union attacking Major League Baseball executives while they spent their weekend in the Hamptons, and they had to quickly get their lawyers together and release a statement countering Tony Clark. But Tony Clark, the union boss, in this one playing the role of Julius Caesar and crossing the Rubicon River, if you will, kicking off the latest civil war between the union and the league office here. Major League Baseball has already returned fire. Stay tuned. Of course, if you're looking for the blame game, the blame game lies in part at Major League Baseball themselves, but not because of the clock, because the pitchers that they want to pay are the ones that throw 100 miles an hour and can spin the baseball like a dreidel. Those are the people that they want to pay. So then there's a trickle-down effect to youth baseball. Well, hey, if you want to make the big leagues and you want to make the real money, you better throw 100 miles an hour, and you better spin that like a top. And if you don't, well, you're screwed. Yeah, you're in trouble. So now when you take a couple of steps back, though, and you look at the landscape, the bigger question here, why are so many pitchers getting injured? Well, part of it is because they're trying to throw hard, as we just stated there, trying to throw as hard as they can, as young as they can. They said, I saw this story a while back, and I think it's still true. They said you're not really supposed to max out on velocity. Your arm is not fully developed as a human being until you're like 26. So, but these guys are throwing with like 13 years old. They're throwing 85 miles an hour. It's ridiculous. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So, but the velocity, you've got a confluence of factors here, like the confluence in Pittsburgh. You have a confluence of factors in play. Velocity and spin rate near the top. The bigger issue, though, and I've been preaching from the bully pulpit for years, that the mindset of the pitcher, and it's the babying that started way before you had to throw 100 miles an hour to make the major leagues and all this stuff. The lack of toughness, right? Because the pitchers, the toughness went away. Like the original ooey gooey cake made famous there in St. Louis, the ooey gooey cake, the pitcher. All right, the pitcher. Major League Baseball should go with the martial law. We believe they should go with the martial law. Now, if you don't know what the martial law is, there was a pitcher named Mike Marshall way back, 50-plus years ago, Mike Marshall, and in the 1970s, this guy pitched over 100 games out of the Dodger bullpen and won the Cy Young Award. And first relief pitcher ever to win that award. They said, well, you can never give it to a relief pitcher. There were over 100 games. First reliever to win that award. And he believed, and he preached about this, that pitchers needed to throw more, not less. Right? And he believed in that. Baseball, you're nuts. We're not going to listen to you, of course. But if you look at what he did, his body of work there, and you study the art of pitching, ergo, the ability, back in the old days, how did pitchers approach? They would not throw as hard as they could possibly throw on every pitch. They would pick their spots and actually, amazingly, change speeds, right? Throw some change-ups, get a couple strikes. Then you rear back and throw the fastball if you have that ability. But it's not just Mike Marshall. On my podcast, the 5th Hour podcast, we had Tommy John on. But that's an actual person, Tommy John. Lives out in Palm Springs, Tommy John. Good guy. We had fun with him. But Tommy John, he stated he believed also you need to throw more, not less, and all that. He went through the whole rant and all that. But there are more ways than one to get hitters out. And as a pitching expert, Benny the Bopper, back in the day, there's more than one way to get hitters out. Right? You can go from overpowering, which is popular now, to trying to beguile hitters with finesse and mixing in junk. We used to have junk ball pitchers and just try to pitch the contact. One of the things about baseball they are trying to do with the pitch clock is they're trying to encourage you to not try to strike everyone out and to actually have hitters swing and put the ball in play, because they believe that's the road to the promised land. All right, now the last word here. So what are the odds that Major League Baseball says, you know what, we're going to adjust the pitch clock. We're going to change it up a little bit. And you're right. The union guys are right. We screwed up. We effed up. A bad job by us. All right, so during the season, forget about it. And I would say forget about it in general, because this is what television wants. Baseball ultimately is a television product. This is what the TV people want. They want speed of the game, and it is a much better watch. Like, I don't like the clock. I didn't support the clock. I don't hate it. The game certainly goes quicker. We don't have a bunch of guys rubbing their junk as they step out and all that. We don't get that. Maybe you missed that. I don't know. Maybe you like that. We don't get that. So I'm okay with it, but Major League Baseball likes the results, and they think that they're doing the right thing, and this is the way to go, and so they're not going to change it. It's kind of like the Liberty Bell. You can't unring the bell, right? Once the bell's been rung, that's it. The bell's been rung. You can't unring it. There is such disdain also, such vitriol for the union from baseball and vice versa from the union towards corporate baseball that neither side's going to budge an inch. Not that the union has any kind of say in the rules of the game, because they don't, but is Tony Clark, though, simply laying the groundwork. There is a conspiracy here that the union is going to use the pitch clock as some kind of pillar in negotiations to try to get some other concession somewhere else. Say, well, we don't like the pitch clock, and so we think you should give us this, X, Y, and Z, but we'll let you keep the pitch clock. Or we want the pitch clock, and we'll concede something else.